Welcome to the Celebration of You. I'm your host, Holly Dowling. I'm thrilled to share with you incredible people from all over the world who are living and leading extraordinary lives. From overcoming immense adversity to discovering the secret sauce to leading with courage and grace. Their stories are going to bring you hope and inspiration. Now let the stories begin. I am always in a different place of gratitude and immense joy, knowing that the amazing guests that I get to have and celebrate on this show are so many come from the listeners in the world. So I thank you. 160 countries our show is being listened in, and it's because of incredible people out there, no matter who you are, your gender, your race, your age, your education, it doesn't matter. The gift of you being a human being on this planet, and that you have gifts and you want to be inspired by hearing other people's stories that bring you hope. It's because of you I have this show, and it's because of this show that I get to celebrate incredible people that sometimes, and you've heard me say this, I feel like I met an angel on assignment. And today, oh, here it goes. I never know what's going to happen when I introduce somebody. I can hear the giggling. And this incredible friend, this wonderful human being, this amazing man that I was so blessed to meet. I think we were just saying, just short of a year ago, last November. Yeah. May I introduce you to the incredible Brad Barton, my angel on assignment. Welcome.
Hello. Hi, Holly.
Hi, Brad. Thanks for being here.
It's wonderful to be in front of your people, your listening people. So,
well, you are the minute we met and we knew, wow, we're going to be connected for the rest of our lives. And then we've gotten to reconnect and see each other again. And the funny thing is, Brad, I have to tell you this before we dive into all the goodness that you bring this world. I have to tell you, I was thinking about this today, having you as a guest. And do you realize, well, you won't know this, when we met in November in Salt Lake City, I'm all over the world and all over the United States. That was the first time I'd ever set foot in Salt Lake City, Utah. Did you know that?
Oh my goodness. Wow. No, that's really neat.
And I loved it. I'm like,
and you've already been back once on a speaking assignment, and hopefully we'll get you back here again and again.
Absolutely. And I have to tell you, I can see why. I don't know. How long have you lived there? Has this been your whole life?
I'm a native of Utah and then lived in Idaho for some years growing up, but I've been back since.
Okay. Because I have to tell you, when I got off that plane, I literally walked outside and there was a short time in my life where I lived in Colorado. So I was used to seeing the mountains, but only to one side. When I got off the plane, I literally walked outside, Brad, and I was like in awe. Yeah. I'm like,
this is it.
This is it. This is God's country. Yeah.
It's the beauties around us, and all of your listeners, these things get, they go away. The beauties do, don't they? They get invisible because we just see them. And I've really tried to keep that awesome nature of the beautiful mountains and this incredible Salt Lake that we get to see. We get double sunsets. I mean, it's an amazing place. So wherever you live, let's remember, all of us, to not let the beauties around us, whether it be family or friends, become invisible, because it's super easy just to let the things that are so present in our lives get invisible.
I love that you just started off like this, because you can just hear it in your voice. And for everyone listening, now you know why I call Brad an angel on assignment, because the beauty, and I'm going to use beauty, the beauty and grace in your voice is so soothing. And then you just started off by sharing something to everyone, no matter where you live. Don't miss the beauty in the people around you and life. So what a kickoff for where we're going.
A fun little story. My friend, a fellow speaker, had moved to Utah and was just amazed by what you were amazed by, just the stunning nature of the mountains. And he would tell people, stop and say, isn't that incredible? And they say, yeah, they're great, aren't they? And he's saying, I'll never be that guy. And then 4 years later, he's got his in-laws out from England, and he's flipping burgers, and they're still just slack-jawed looking at the mountains. And he's saying, aren't they incredible to Kirk? And Kirk heard himself say, yeah, they're great, aren't they? And then it just stopped him because he recalled what he promised himself he'd never do. Anyway, that's I think of that often.
Well, and it's so funny as I'm listening to you say this, so we moved to Arizona 5 years ago from the Midwest. And long story short, one of the things that I've loved so much about living in Scottsdale is I will do almost anything, and I will do crazy things for travel to get home, even if it's for only 36 to 48 hours, right. Because when I see the blue skies, the palm trees, and I can be in the water, it is the closest thing that I feel in my soul to being with God. It's my reminder. It's my sanctuary. And it so fills me up. So to what you're saying, it's like I've never, ever, I say this over and over, I never want to take for granted what I get to experience when I'm home. And it is about our rituals, right? And what have we put in place to fill us up? Well, now I got to brag on you. So here's the thing, everybody, is that I don't think in my lifetime I've ever met a human being that has accomplished what Brad has accomplished. So I'm going to do a drum roll, if you can hear the drum roll, because we're starting off with this right now, because I'm still shocked that I'm just going to read it because I could tell you all because I was getting the text messages from Brad. But Brad, are you ready? I get to announce this. I did the drum roll. I feel like I'm the MC and you're getting ready to come out on stage. Brad is the only 50-year plus, this is 50 years, gang, 50 plus year old in history to run a mile under 4 minutes and 20 seconds and has recently set 4 Masters track middle distance world records. Woohoo! I mean, that's insane. Who does that, Brad? I mean, come on, man. You're not 22 or 18, right?
My coach and I do.
Okay, so tell us, take us to, because this was just recent. So will you just brag for a minute and tell us what that was like and what did you do? Because I know it's very metaphoric to what you choose to do in life, but tell us about what it took to get to this and to win that and break that record.
Super big question. Let me just maybe back up just a bit. And it's a story of resilience. And it's not my story. I love when before we started recording, we talked about how this isn't about Holly. This work isn't about Brad. This whole call is not about the two of us, right? And this is really a story of resilience. And when I'm in front of a group speaking, the stories that I tell, I let them know. I say, hey, these are not just my stories. These are my details, but this is the human condition, right? And so it's a story of resilience, and it's a story of I was raised on a cattle ranch near Salmon, Idaho, and really pretty rough background. My dad is a good man with a good heart with some poor ways, and raised in an alcoholic home, and he just raised us in a difficult environment. And I came up with a lot of doubts and a lot of fears, and I found athletics in high school. An amazing coach that told me one day, he said, "I'm going to make you a champion," and I believed him. And he told me one time with his finger in my face, he said, "Champions are born and then unmade. Oh. You've been unmade, and we're going to make you again." It wasn't until years later I found out he stole that line from a Nike sneaker commercial. Oh,
no. Wait, I remember you telling me a little bit about this because you thought, there's a whole story. Keep going.
Yeah. He patched me up and it helped me to believe in myself, and it helped me to get to the point where I could win an athletic scholarship. Went to a place called Ogden, Utah, to Weber State University, and an incredible coach there. My life has just been filled with coaches, and the Chick Hislop's one of the most famous track coaches in the world. He reinvented the 3,000 meter steeplechase from a little tiny nothing school with the lowest budget in the Big Sky Conference. He created a world-class program in cross country and in 3,000 meter steeplechasing. Told me one day after a long talk, he says, "I think you can be the first Weber State University track athlete to make the U.S. Olympic team." and he told me, he said, "Let's go do something that's never been done." And I got chills after this 90-minute talk about all the reasons why that that I can do it in some of my weaknesses and how we're going to buttress some of my strengths. It was really teaching me resiliency, because I had failed a lot in my life. And sure enough, after years of work, he put me on the starting line in Louisiana at the Olympic trials in 1992 for the Barcelona Games. I was ranked 19th in the world. I was one of the top Americans. I had a legitimate chance of making the team. And, well, there's just a quick way to say it. In the semifinal round, I slipped over a water barrier and I didn't make the finals. I didn't even make the finals, Holly.
Oh, Brad, I didn't know this.
And I was All-American the year before, and with a time that would normally win the NCAA championships. It happened to be the second fastest time in history, and I ended up third in this race. And then I'm going to make the Olympic team, and that's going to be okay. And I missed that. I called him about a month later. I still remember. I was emotional on the phone with him. I said, Coach, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. Let's go to Atlanta in 4 years. And he's, I knew you'd call. So we started the whole process over again. And before I got to the trials, I'd ripped something on my hip, and I'd flown around the country trying to figure out a way to heal it. And anyway, by then, and I missed the trials in 96. And by then I'm too old. And so I got married and started having kiddos and building a speaking career. But all the time, this whole time I'm preaching this doctrine that the happiest times in our lives is when we're growing. It's not when we've arrived. We all have maintenance modes in our lives, and we all have steep learning curve modes in our lives, right? And if you stop and think about this, and I'm going to ask your listeners to think of the happiest times in your life. For the most part, it's not when we've arrived. It's that semester, that last one. Remember that when you were, for the fellas, you were taking 17 credit hours and you were working a 40-hour work week as well. And about every 3.5 days, you had to talk her back into staying engaged to you. Those were horrible times, but they were the best because you were on the grow. You were somebody headed somewhere. And then what happens? Do we get a little complacent and we get in our jobs and have to struggle for a year or two till we get we get on top of the learning curve, and then we spend our lives mostly good enough at what we're good at.
Yep.
Instead of continually trying to get better. So I'm getting a little preachy right here, but that's the environment that I was in 19 years later. Trying to make sense of the doctrine I'm preaching. Let's get better with the life I'm living, being good enough. I was a good enough speaker, and then I saw a master's track race, and it just called to me. I don't know how else to say it. I felt called to get back on the track, and long story short, I was wondering if I could break a 5-minute mile at 44. I ran 4:43.
Wow.
And then I ripped my quad. And the next year I ran 4:32.
Oh my goodness.
And then I ripped my quad, and I called my old retired college coach and I said, Coach, I ran 4:32 in the mile last year. And he says, you did what? And he's like, he's incredulous. How old are you? And because he knows what a 4:32 mile is. I mean, that's crazy.
That's crazy, insane. I know.
And I said, well, I'm 46. And he asked the question, what's the world record in the master's age group, 45 to 49? We looked it up. It's 420.19. And I said, what do you think? And he says, I think it's time to come out of retirement. And then he said the words, he says, I think it's time to go do something finally that we've never done. And, that it's been 25 years since he spoke those words to me. And I felt the chills again, and we started working together 2012, and I remember the world record's 420 for the M45, and the Masters 45 to 49 age group. I ran 426, 2 weeks later, 423, 2 weeks later, he broke my foot.
What?
And now I'm sitting there on crutches, and I look at Coach, I said, now what? He says, well, maybe that we figured out why that's a 30-year-old world record we're trying to break. And I said, what do you mean? He says, well, maybe someone as old as you can't train hard enough to run any faster than 420.19.
Ooh, well, that one motivated you, didn't it?
I remember the plunge in my heart. Now I got a broken heart with my broken foot, right?
Oh.
And then he says, or maybe it can be done, and I just haven't figured it out yet. Remember, this is the coach that when the Olympic Games came to America in 1996, the coaches in the United States voted Chick Hislop the head Olympic distance coach because he's the best.
He's the one.
So I've got maybe one of the best arguably the best, one of the best coaches in the world. And he's saying, Brad, maybe some of the things that I learned over a 38-year career don't work anymore. Now think about this, listener. How is this your story with my details?
Yeah.
It's a different environment now, Brad. I'm trying to train you like a college kid all this time. And we found out that stuff falls off when we run that fast and that hard and that long. So he told me, he said, I'm the tactician, you're the guinea pig. We're going to reinvent what it means to train at a world-class level. He said, with your different environment and this different body, this aged body you've got, we're going to have to train you different.
Now, I have to get details. Hold on, Brad, because I want everybody listening to understand at this point, when you're having this conversation, how old are you?
46.
Okay. All right. This is why it's important. I love details. Okay. Keep going. All right.
So again, the idea is that this is our story. Just about any situation you find yourself in, whether it be maybe whatever discipline that you make your living, certainly if you're a parent, it just about anything you can, anything that you're going to try to do in this world is different now than it was. Yeah. Yeah. And so we've got to reinvent what it means to train at a world-class level, don't we?
Absolutely.
Right?
And I love that metaphorically you are using that as understanding that what I always say and I love is that it's never too late to dream again. What you've done is not only owned that, it means that it's going to be a little different. How you train at a different age to be world class just means thinking a little differently and doing things differently. So I'm loving the metaphor that it's coming through that you've lived and done. So take us fast forward because we got to get to the backstory. I'm dying to get to the other part of this too. Yeah.
So we in 2013, training me different than he ever had. We, after a failure and another failure and another failure, Coach and I ran 4:16.83, ran 4:16 mile and broke the record, broke 2 American records that year. I missed the world record in the steeple, doubled my mileage in 2014, took 9.5 seconds off the indoor 3,000 meter world record, and ran a steeplechase in 2014 so fast it would have won the Big Sky Conference.
Seriously?
Back when I was a kiddo. And in fact, it wasn't accepted by the world governing body, and there was an inquiry made and the response came back by email. They said, "Please forgive us for denying your world record."
You literally got an apology?
No, check this out. They said, when we programmed the computer to handle the data for the world records, we set the defaults such that it would kick out any unrealistic times.
Oh my goodness.
We've reset the defaults. Please resubmit. It will be accepted this time. And a congratulations on your fine performance. Holly, we broke their dang computer.
I know. I'm loving that you triggered the default. Like, this isn't possible. Right. That's the system. Again, metaphor to life.
How did it work? Coach had reset my defaults, right?
Yep.
He told me the right kinds of stories over the years and reset the default that my dad gave me, right, about what I was capable of doing. And force them to change their defaults. Anyway, kind of a neat story.
I love this so much. And the thing that's amazing to me is, so this goes to your 46. Now, when you just broke this record and you're not, let's be honest, you're 52 or 53, right?
Well, I was 48 when we set those last 2 records.
Okay.
The steeplechase and the indoor 3,000 meter world records. And then I took a year off. I was pretty tired. Emotionally, my body was pretty broken up too. and then came back. We were going to come back with a vengeance at 40. I started training just so that we could. The joke in the masters world is that you set records when there's still a little smoke in the air from your birthday candles, right? When you turn that next 50 year, that 5 year. So you set them at 40 and 45 and 40 and 50 and 55, right? Well, I broke my foot just before I turned 50, shattered my toe on speaking assignment, just on a training run. And then I healed from that and got fit again, and then broke my foot a different place, and then healed from that, ripped my quad, healed from that, got a head injury in a training running. And then a year later, I was just a world record fit, and I took another wicked fall on a trail and gave myself another head injury. And then I broke my toe again. I'm 53. We got one shot at it at the very end of the season here. And I go to Tennessee, Vanderbilt University, and stepped on the starting line with this 50-year-old former Olympic 1,500 meter runner from Ireland.
Wow!
And he was supposed to break the record, and I was kind of an afterthought. I wore bib 2, not bib 1.
Bib 2, I love that.
and I pulled past him with 250 meters to go, and we both broke Nolan Shahid's world's record, Masters 50 to 55-year-old world record of 4:25. He ran 4:23 and I ran 4:19.
Unbelievable. And that was just this last spring. This wasn't even that long ago. We're talking months ago.
This is kind of a gaudy way to look at it, but someone pointed this out to me. 1954, May 6th, Roger Bannister became the first human being to run a mile under 4 minutes. It wasn't until the year 2019 that a 50-year-old finally broke the 4:20 mile barrier. And that was Coach and I that did it.
I am covered in goosies, head to toe. Oh my goodness. I mean, I can't get them to stop. And you did it without...
Holly, this story is really about what life is like.
Yes.
You set out to accomplish some worthy goal, and there's going to be roadblocks. There's going to be broken things along the way. And there's going to be ripped things, and there's going to be disappointment and doubt and discouragement. Yep. It was probably late February, and I called my coach, and I just said, Coach, I mean, this is after a lot of work that this man has put in, and a ton of work that I put in. And I said, Coach, I'm just not feeling it anymore. I'm not feeling the burn. And he says, so tell me about it. And I said, every step is a drudgery. Every day I get up and strap out my running shoes and go out. Every step is a hardship for me. And I think it's time to just let this go. And he says, great. He said that you don't have anything to prove. You've done enough. And he said, I just want to leave you with one. I was just saying goodbye to him. And he said, I just leave you with one question. What was your goal all this time? And I said, I'm kind of him-hawing. And he said, I think maybe we're coming to the challenge right here. He said, seriously, what are you running for? And I said, well, I want to break records, right? Don't we want to break more records? And he said, yeah, but which records? Which one? And I couldn't tell him. He says, tell you what, don't stop training yet. Keep drudging, but think of that question and call me back a couple weeks. So I called him back in 2 weeks. I couldn't wait to call him. And I said, Coach, I'm having fun again. We're gonna break Nolan Shahid's mile world record, 4:25, and I'm spinning again, and I'm floating along my workouts. I'm excited to get up and get out there, and that's really the story, Holly. It's about resiliency and figuring out what it is that you want.
Yep.
And then laser focusing on that. And then, who knows what happens from there? Maybe they write, start writing articles about you.
Well, and
right?
how funny that is, because that's happened. And, I really want the listeners to see and hear, this is such a beautiful story, Brad, I'm passionate about resiliency. I'm passionate about all of what life gives us that we can either look at as horrific challenges, or as I like to call them, gifts that have just not been unwrapped because they're still a bow. It's an opportunity to grow. And what I want, and I want to hear this because I don't even know. Everybody just got to hear this. unbelievable, monumental, just incredible journey of never giving up, right? Like continuing to go after this and resilience at its best. This didn't come without some serious hurdles, roadblocks. And as you said to me before we started the interview, it wasn't that many years ago that you felt like the world and the skies in heaven just collapsed on you. Yeah. And so take us to that, because this wasn't hey, Brad's had this beautiful life and just keeps getting up going, I'm going to go break another record. Oh, I have a broken foot. Broken foot, metaphorically, broken heart, broken spirit, right? Yeah. Like, will you take us through that, whatever feels comfortable for you, because that's huge to who you are today.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that I learned from I actually took one of Holly's leadership programs, and I wrote this down in my notes, suffocating. And I wrote down, woe is me versus wow is me. Mm-hmm. And I think I've been through the woe is me pity party many times in my life. So I get to feel like I'm suffocating, right? Mm. Or I get to live in gratitude. My wife and I were married for 27 years, and then something really, really bad happened, and I can't even tell you what it is. It was terrible. Some bad thing, some evil man did something to our family, and my wife just couldn't be married anymore. Mm. And so it was basically just a hellish existence for a number of months, and that turned into years, that turned into more years. And, this beautiful relationship that we had and this wonderful little family that we had, and it just kind of came apart. Mm. And, I'm not blameless and she's not blameless, but this was done to us. There was some outside force that came and did this horrible thing, and my wife just couldn't do it. Mm. And so she finally, she ended the relationship, and in a really awful way. And I just wondered there was a time where if I just realized if I could just breathe, mm-hmm. and just breathe enough, if I breathed enough time, and enough times, then enough time would go by that a whole 5 minutes would be gone. It was like an eternity. Yeah. And it was tough. I wondered if, I figured that there's no way that I could live till morning, because no one could hurt this bad and still be alive. It was that bad. Oh. And so I don't know, maybe that's too personal for people to listen to, but it was horrific.
Horrific.
Yeah, it was tough.
And how many children did you?
My kids too.
I was just going to ask. Yeah, what was it like for the children? How did they handle this?
It was really tough. We have kids at that point ranging from 24 years old down. We have 6, so every 3 years down to our youngest was just a little tyke. So anyway, they're still going through this difficult time, and there were just miracles after miracles after miracles, and not the one I was praying for, and more miracles and more miracles. And I say, okay, these are really nice miracles, God, but
where's the one
I'm praying for? And so more miracles, and I keep a journal through this process, and started to do that more often, and to got to the point where I did it daily. It was a daily miracle. And some of them were wonderful, beautiful miracles. And some of them were just great big, holy cow. How is this possible miracles? And I somehow, my kids survived it, and my beautiful, their beautiful mother survived it, and I did too. And here I am now.
You're the Brady Bunch now, aren't you?
I got on Match.com. And God led me to a woman. I have 2 boys and 4 girls. She's got 4 boys and 2 girls.
No, this is for real. You're really the Brady Bunch, but double.
There's 12 kiddos that we've got. So, and her two youngest are daughters, and my 2 youngest are daughters, and they're about close to the same age. So anyway, it's just a marvelous thing. God keeps his promises. He really does. And I want to just witness about that for your listeners, that if you just keep breathing, and you keep moving forward, and you just keep believing that things will work out, they will. It's never going to look like you want it to, like you expected it to, but it's going to work out.
I love that, because typically I ask my guests something profound at the end. You just gave it to us in the most beautiful package. And it's truly magnificent as I'm listening to you, Brad, again, covered in goosebumps, because you faced adversity, right? Like this, all of these records and all of this that sounds so amazing, which is amazing and is unheard of, didn't come without a price that you've lived through. And being able, thinking about, like I was thinking, picturing you with this amazing gift, and that you can run like world record breaking, right? The gift that your body is able to do at this age. And yet you were at a place in your life where you could barely breathe to wake up in the morning. You know, and breath is so important, and your faith that kept you going. And I can't wait to meet your wife someday, because I love that you are truly the biggest Brady Bunch ever. And I know we stay in touch, and you'll send me messages, and I'm like, I'd love to be a fly on the wall. And those children, your children and your bonus children, are so blessed to have you. So maybe I should say, maybe it's time to have your beautiful wife on the show, and I'll call her the angel on assignment too, right?
She is worthy, a worthy guest on your show.
Oh,
Absolutely.
This was amazing. You are a gift. I know people are going to want to learn more about you, because you're bringing this story and what you do, and you bring it to the world. You're a speaker. You have an incredible book. And by the way, I love your book because it's Beyond Illusions, because you do, and I've witnessed you in Salt Lake doing these amazing magic tricks, but it's all part of you sharing the story. So how can people reach out to you, Brad, learn more about you, or even want to hire you and bring you in? Talk to us.
So it's super simple. It's bradspeaks.com.
Well, that was pretty easy, Brad.
Email me. It's brad@bradspeaks.com. That's what I do.
I love it. And you know what I love? It's like, okay, I don't think anybody needs to write that one down. So if you're listening, and I have people like that tell me they can't wait, like literally, Brad, people will do their lunch and learn and listen to the show on Thursdays because they can't wait to hear what guest is going to be on. I have other people that do it with their families around the world for dinner. Other people do it during their exercise time. So the good news is you don't have to write this down. brad@bradspeaks.com. That's pretty easy.
Yep. That's right. Let's get back on the grow. Let's get back on. I mean, my new book is back on track. It's not yet to be published. And that's really the challenge that I leave your listeners with. Let's continue to grow, and let's continue to believe.
Oh, I love this. And by the way, when you get ready to have a copy of your book, of course, I would love to read it, and I'd be happy to do something for you on behalf of the book. And nice. We will definitely share this with the audience when that day comes, because like everything in your world and in mine, it's all in divine timing, right?
That's right.
Thank you, Brad, my angel on assignment. Thank you for being here today.
I love you, Holly. You're awesome.
Love you more, darling. Thank you.
Okay, and take care, everybody. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for joining me for another awesome celebration of you. If you were inspired by this story, please share it with your family and friends and hashtag Your Story Matters. I'd love to hear from you, so please leave a comment on iTunes. And absolutely, please come to my website, hollydowling.com. Leave a comment there too, and while you're there, pick up your free gift. Most importantly though, just remember that your life is a gift from God. What you do with it is your gift back.